So today I'll be making gnocchi alla Romana with tomato concasse sauce. This one is one of my personal favorites. It's very good, very tasty. So do please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video also. And I hope you enjoy watching. Okay, so for the gnocchi, we will be needing a few ingredients. This is around 150 grams of semolina flour, 100 grams of butter, 1 piece egg yolk, 120 grams of Parmesan cheese. If you don't have any Parmesan cheese, you can use any powdered cheese. 500 milliliters of whole milk. You will also need salt. Okay, so for the sauce, what you will be needing is tomatoes, peeled and deseeded. This is around 1 kilograms. Tomato paste, a few tablespoons more or less. 100 milliliters of vegetable stock. You can also use chicken stock if you want to. This is 2 cloves garlic and a quarter of an onion. Salt and pepper, your oil also. And this one is the pureed tomato from... Okay, so when you peel the tomato and deseeded them, you're gonna have this stuff removed. So what you need to do, so it won't go to waste, get a blender, blend this one until it is really smooth, and then you could add this when you're making any tomato sauces, for example. Okay, so to make the sauce, first things first, heat up your pan, add some oil, and then once this is hot, what you need to do is to add first your onion. Saute this until it is translucent, and then we add the garlic. Okay, so when you're done sauteing with your garlic, when you got that aroma already, add a few tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm gonna put, that's maybe around 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste, and then we just saute this one. Okay, now time to add your stock. And then add also the tomato puree, fresh tomato puree. Let it simmer for a bit, and then we add the fresh tomatoes. So let this simmer for a few minutes, and then add the tomatoes, the peeled tomatoes. Let it reduce for a few minutes, and then add the seasoning, add your salt and pepper if you want to add more. And always taste the things that you do first before adding any salt, because you never know if you already get the desired flavor that you want. Okay, so now time to add the tomatoes. So let this one simmer until your tomatoes are fully cooked, and then season it with salt and pepper. Also, if you want to add basil with this one, make sure that you cut the basil into chiffonade, really thin strips, and then cook it or add the basil when this one is almost cooked. Okay, so after a few minutes of simmering, we already got our tomatoes at this state. So for me, I'm good with this one. It still has some chunks with this one, some liquids, and not too soft, not too hard also. So another thing, if it so happened that your tomatoes turn out to be too sour, you can always add a little bit of sugar just to balance out the sour. And always add your salt and pepper at the last, or almost at the last, because adding salt on the early stage you won't really get the flavor that you want because there's still too much liquid with that one. The more salt you add and then the liquid reduces, the saltier the flavor of anything that you will be cooking will turn out to be. So always add at almost at the end or at the end of the cooking process. So yeah. So for me, I'm good with this one. If I had basil, I'm gonna add basil at this point. Okay, so to make the gnocchi, first things first that you need to do, turn on your heat and then add your milk. Add a small amount of salt. And then let this boil for a few minutes. And then we add the semolina. Okay, so now that the milk is hot and it's starting to boil, add your flour. Don't wait until this one totally boils because it will overflow. So add your flour now. And then mix this for 10 minutes. And then turn off the heat. Then we add the butter. Okay, so this is now your semolina after a few minutes, 10 minutes more or less. Just make sure that the flour gets really cooked. You don't want to have your gnocchi to have a floury flavor. That's the reason why you're cooking the semolina. So after this, we turn off the heat and then we mix in the butter and some of the cheese also. Okay, now heat is off, so time to add 1/3 of the butter and then more or less a third of this one. Yeah, around that much. Then just mix. Okay, now so after mixing your butter, your cheese with your cooked semolina, it's time to put it here. This I'm gonna use baking sheet. If you have silicone mat, you can also use silicone mat. So yeah. And then just spread it until you get maybe around 1 centimeter more or less. It depends on what you want to do. You can spread this and then roll it and then put it in the chiller. And when it's hard, you can always cut it circularly, but I'm gonna do something different. I'm just gonna spread this and then cut them when this one is cold. So I had to change plan. Instead of just spreading it, I took a mold instead. It's gonna be a lot easier to retain a shape. Also, the height would be a little bit higher compared if I don't have any mold. So I'm just gonna let this cool down, and after that, we're gonna cook this one. Okay, so first thing before we cut the gnocchi, what we need to do first is to get yourself a baking dish and then melt your butter and then just spread some butter. Okay, so now you put butter in this one. Now put some of the sauce. You don't need to put them all. Okay, so this is a tomato sauce with some cheese on top of this one. So it's time to assemble gnocchi. Okay, so this is now the gnocchi. We put this in the chiller for a few hours and it is now a lot firmer. It's still soft but a lot firmer. Also, it retains the shape and it's a little bit higher than if you don't use any molds. So this time what we will do, we're just gonna cut them. So ideally it is better if you have your own ring mold cutter, but if not, you can always just use a knife and cut this in squares or rectangulars or triangles. Or if you don't have any ring mold and you want to make a crescent moon shape, you can just use a regular glass. What I did is I just put some butter on the inside and on the outside so that this one won't stick. So yeah. So what you need to do, the remaining butter that you have, just pour over your gnocchi, okay? Pour the rest of your powdered cheese on top. So this one, what we will do, we're gonna put this in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius until the top part is golden brown. We don't need to fully cook everything anymore since everything is already cooked, okay? So this is freshly out from the oven, so that's it. What's left is just to, how do you say this? Plate this one. So basically what I did is I just gratinate the top portion of the gnocchi. So the heat should only be on top. You could go higher than 180 so that it would brown a lot faster. Just be careful when gratinating this one at a higher temperature because there is a chance that it will get burnt. So if you made it up to here, do please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. I really did enjoy making this and especially eating this one. It's really good, simple but really tasty. So thank you, till next time.